Today, we discussing the lesson 4, which is crimes in the modern world. Under with the topic are organized crimes, professional crimes, conventional crimes, property crimes, and violent crimes, and also the example of all crimes. The first crime is organized crime. It's a criminal activity by enduring structure or organization developed and devoted primarily to pursue of profits through illegal means. It's sometimes referred to as the mob mafia syndicate or Cosa Nostra. How organized crime groups works. First is an enforcer, one who makes arrangements for killing and injuring the members or non-members. Second is a corrupter, one who bribes, buys, intimidates, threatens, negotiates and sweet talks into a relationship with the police and public officials who can help the members' security and maintain immunity from arrest, prosecution, and punishment. Third is a corrupt, a public official, usually not a member of the organization family, who can wield influence on behalf of the organization's interests. The characteristics of organized crimes. It is conspiracy activity involving coordination of members. Second is economic gain is the primary goal. Third is economic gain is achieved through illegal means. 4 is employs predatory tactics such as intimidation, violence, and corruption. 5th is effective control over members, associates, and victims. 6 is organized crimes does not include terrorists dedicated to political change. Generic types of organized crime. First is political graft, manned by political criminals who use force and violence as a means to obtain profit or gain or achieving political aims or ambitions. Second is mercenary or predatory organized crime. Crimes committed by group for direct personal profit but prey upon unwilling victims. Third is in group-oriented organized crime. Groups manned by semi-organized individuals whose major goals are for physiological gratification such as adolescents gangs. The last is syndicated crime. The organization that participate in illicit activity incited by the use of force, intimidation, or threat. It's a group of formal structure whose purpose is to provide illicit services. Under with the crimes in the modern world is professional crimes. Refers to the occupation or their incumbents which processes various traits including useful knowledge that requires lengthy training. And also, under the crimes in the modern world is white-collar crimes. Criminal act committed by a person or respectability and high social status in the course of his occupation. Forms of white-collar crimes. Corporate crimes. Violation of criminal statute either by a corporate entity or by executive, employees, or agent. Second is environmental crimes. Violation of criminal law which although typically committed by a business or business officials. Third is occupational crimes. An act punishable by law and it's committed through opportunity created in the course of an occupation that is legal. The fourth crimes under with the crimes in the modern world is conventional crimes. Group of crimes categorized as a violent crimes or a property crimes. The fifth crimes is violent crimes. Are criminal acts which entreat of actual physical harm by offender to a victim. Violent acts are in the form of interpersonal violence, for example, forcible rape, murder, serious assault, family violence, and robbery. Second is political violence, for example, terrorism. And the last one is collective violence, for example, riots, mobs, crowds, urban violence. The next crimes is property crimes, are crimes of economic interest. Property crimes acts in the form of occasional property crimes, for example, shoplifting, vandalism, motor vehicle theft, and check forgery. Conventional property crimes, for example, burglary, unlawful entry to commit theft, fence, larceny, and theft. Destructive property crimes, for example, arson. Violent crimes. Murder is the unlawful killing of human being with the malice and with the acts of violence. Types of murder. Serial murder, an act involving killing of several victims in 3 or more separate incidents over a week, month, or a year. Mass murder is the killing of 4 or more victims at one location with one event. Spree murder, the killing of 2 or more locations with almost no time break between murders. The second example of violent crimes is homicide and assault. Homicide is the unlawful killing without the qualifying circumstances of murder. Assault, it's a cold, unlawful attack to another person to harm or inflict physical injuries. The third example of violent crimes is robbery. Defined as a violent theft, it is taking a property belonging to another with intent to gain by means of force upon things, violence or intimidation against person. Kinds of robbery. Robbery of person, hold up cases. Robbery in open places following sudden attack, snatching cases. Robbery in private premises, forcible entry. Robbery after preliminary association of short duration between victims and offender. Robbery in case of previous association between victims and offender. The fourth example of violent crimes is rape. Is commonly defined as carnal knowledge of a human against her will. Is a violent crime due to the means employed, usually characterized by violence, aggression, and domination. Categories of rape. Real rape. Aggravated rape involving violence, weapons, and attackers. Simple rape. Anything else not fall as a real rape, such as the victim's view as suspicious, particularly if the victims did not physically resist. The fifth example of violent crimes is family violence. It's a violent crimes involving physical assault by a family member to another family. Members such as child abuse, an attack or assault of an adult against the defenseless or people who cannot defend themselves, usually by a parent to a child. Second is spouse abuse, husband versus wife battering. Under the crimes in the modern world is victimless crime. Refers to those crimes in which no clear is readily identifiable. The only injured party is the offender, who engages in self-destructive behavior. Victimless crimes include prostitution. It's a practice of having sexual relation with emotional indifferences on a promiscuous and mercenary basis. It's an act of sexual intercourse of hire, the solid sex for hire. It's a battering sex favor for monetary consideration, either gift or cash, without emotional attachment between partners. The second is pornography. It's any material intended primarily to arouse sexual desires, pertaining to obscene, literary, or lascivious materials in the form of mail or written media, television, telephone, and radio. Also, under the victimless crimes, drug abuse. It is the use of drugs with such frequency that it causes physical or mental harmful to the user. It's also referred to the use of drug prohibited by the law regardless whether it was actually harmful or not. The last one is drug addiction. It's the state of mind in which person has lost the power of self-control in respect of a drug. Characteristics of drug addiction. First is compulsion or uncontrollable craving. The addict feels a compulsive craving to take repeatedly and tries to procure the same by any means. The second is tolerance. It's a tendency to increase the dose of the drug to produce the same effect as do that of the original effect. The third is addiction. The addict is powerless to quit drug abuse. The fourth is physical dependence. The addict's physiological functioning is altered. The fifth is psychological dependence. Emotional and mental discomfort exists to an individual. And the last one is withdrawal syndrome. The addict becomes nervous and restless when he does not get drugged. Under with the victimless crimes is alcoholism. Term used to refer a person or the person behavior with a life problem related to alcohol drinking. And the last one example of victimless crimes is gambling. It's usually defined as a wagering or events which chance largely determines the outcome.